Hey addicts, welcome back. We are here for another movie review. Gosh, I can't even remember the last movie we reviewed. It's been far too long, so I'm really glad that we're back, and hopefully we'll have more in the future as well for later this year. But we are going to be talking about a movie that has come out a while ago, and it's probably been on my watch list for just as long because I've been wanting to see it, I think, when it announced. But it's the movie called ThoroughBreds. It's from 2017, and it's a indie film that is a thriller slash comedy. It kind of blends in the around, throughout the movie. But I am going to read you the description of the movie just because I think this plot summary sums it up pretty well without it giving away anything. So I'll just go ahead and read that. So it says, childhood friends Lily and Amanda reconnect in suburban Connecticut after years of growing apart. Lily has turned into a polished upper-class teenager who has a fancy boarding school on her transcript and a coveted internship on her resume. Amanda has developed a sharp wit and her own particular attitude, but all in the process of becoming a social outcast. Though they intentionally seem completely at odds, the pair eventually bond and hatch a plan to solve both of their problems. So if you've seen the trailer for this, you know a little bit more about the movie. I'll go ahead and just say that because it's in the trailer, and I'm sure if anybody's heard about the film, they kind of maybe know this already. But it's not a big thing because I think they, get to the whole premise of what the movie's going to be centered around within like the first 20 or 30 minutes. And that is that Lily, who just recently got a new stepfather and is kind of a dick to her throughout the whole process of her mom being remarried, has just had enough of the guy and has basically come into the possibility of planning a scheme to kill him. And so that kind of leads to her sort of recruiting her now reconnected friend Amanda into this, and kind of the majority of the film is them planning how they're going to do this. But I will say though, the movie is not necessarily what you expect. I mean, it does deliver on that premise, but I think the focus of that is more of a secondary focus, right? At least it's not at the center stage throughout the whole film. And I think the trailer actually does a really good job of showing the premise and not giving any misinformation in terms of what the movie is about or what to expect from it, but it really does a great job of hiding just what things are really important, or what things you think are going to have a bigger impact in the movie, but it's actually scaled down a bit from what you're thinking. And I think that's a great way to do a trailer. The movie itself, even though it does have this sort of taking your expectation and putting it in a different direction, I think it does a really great job. And to me, it's a focus that I find really interesting anyway. So some of the other things that it focuses on is the kind of theme of society and kind of social norms. And it's not done in a way that I think is too blatant, like something like RoboCop, which I love RoboCop, and I love the way they do that take on, the media and stuff. But, it's not very, heavy-handed, or like I said, blatant. It definitely doesn't feel preachy at all, but I do like kind of the backdrop it has throughout the whole film, and I think it's subtly put throughout the film, but I think it becomes more so at the forward thought process towards the end, or at least a more pronounced showcasing of that when we get to like sort of the final narrations of certain characters, but more so it focuses on, I would say, these characters and kind of their traits that they have as characters. So for instance, Amanda, who's played by Olivia Cooke, she does a great job of this, but her character, and I don't really remember what you would call people like this. I think maybe schizoid is one term that you would use for it, but it's people that don't really have any emotions, or at least they have a very hard time expressing theirs, or just finding emotion in emotional situations, and they tend to imitate other people's emotions to counter the situation, right? So I do like this kind of dynamic it already plays, because Lily, who's played by Anya Taylor-Joy, she is not somebody that doesn't have emotions at all, but she does lack empathy, and at times shows like almost like sociopath tendencies. So I think already that leads to an interesting matchup, given the situation of them coming together to plan this murder. But the film primarily, I would say, kind of focuses on shedding light on their relationship, and, you know, just, I guess, the thought process, or like what leads to some of the thinking behind their actions. But I mean, obviously shown in a more lighthearted or comedic way too. But also, just out of all of the characters, I think Lily is, or maybe has, the most interesting journey throughout the film, and seeing where she ends up in comparison to where she started at the beginning of the movie is one of the best things about the ending, I think. Although I will say, Olivia Cooke, who plays as Amanda, she does a really great job of portraying kind of that character's whole deal, and it's just a really fun seeing, you know, all of these characters interacting. Now, speaking of, one of the things that I will touch on just real quick is there is, I don't want to say a subplot to the movie, but there is another character played by Anton Yelchin, which, shout out to him. He was a great actor, died before his time, so, you know, rest in peace to him. But he delivers a performance in here that I really do like too. He's tied to this kind of sort of, I'll call it a subplot just for the sake of time here. But that definitely wanted me to just see more of him, because I think all three of the characters interacting was maybe some of the I don't want to say the best scenes, but a handful of them were definitely like maybe the most intriguing and just enjoyable, right? And there's you know, a certain level of you know, almost scaling back that the movie has at a certain point, but I think it's almost for the better, because there's so many of those other things that I've mentioned before, you know, kind of focusing on, you know, the characters' traits and then the relationship specifically between Lily and Amanda, that I don't know necessarily would have landed as hard, or would have just led to it being a better film if we would have had, you know, some expansion on certain scenes or certain characters. Like, even seeing more of the father, you would think would be a better move, because, you know, he's kind of essentially the main focal point of their plan, right? But I think it also adds a certain level of power and kind of impact that their implications add without seeing him, because, I mean, yeah, we see him in a couple scenes and he's a dick, but we don't really see him for a lot of the film, or at least in other scenes where outside of him just being a dick. So, you know, there could be another layer to this that, you know, I think just adds to kind of again, those kind of tendencies that Lily has, and it, you know, almost leading you to think, well, is this justified from like an outside standpoint, or is it just because we're seeing it from primarily her viewpoint or her perspective that this seems like a good idea? And I just love the way that the film plays on that. Now, I won't say much more other than that. The film definitely shines in, I would say, primarily two aspects, and that is the acting and the dialogue. The acting is excellent. I really do love all of the characters, but I think the talent behind the characters is what I think even brings it to that next level. It was one of the reasons why I wanted to see this film. I've always been a fan of Anya Taylor-Joy's other work, especially recently. I mean, I've watched her and stuff since like the Witch and Split and stuff like that, but even seeing her in something more recently like The Queen's Gambit, and then going back to some of these other performances that she's done earlier, you can still see that she was definitely a high caliber actress, and I think she's just done really good jobs of not only picking the movies or the series that she stars in, but just also giving a really great, memorable performance. And I think the same can be said about the others as well. Like I said, Anton Yelchin, this is like one of his last movies that he ever made. And I don't know necessarily if I could say this is like, in my top for his, because he doesn't really have a big part in this movie. Sorry, semi-spoiler, but that maybe go to like something like Green Room, which is a really great movie of his, but I still really liked him, and I think he has a very alluring portrayal of the character that he's playing as. And again, like I said, Olivia Cooke does, I think, a great job kind of playing that person that just has just a whole lack of emotions, and even some of her delivery and the way that she reacts to certain scenes, I think, really nails that part of the character. And again, I think one of the reasons why this hits so hard is that the dialogue is also very solid. I really do like a lot of the moments. This film is primarily a lot of people sitting around talking. So dialogue can really make or break a movie like this, and I think it does a great job in keeping the movie not only afloat, but also having it have some impact that it's going for. Now, because of everything that I've said, this isn't a movie that I'd probably recommend to everyone. I think a lot of people that aren't in the right mindset or just don't like this type of movie would find it somewhat boring because of quote unquote the lack of things happening. But I think that's also one of the reasons why I love it. And I'm not saying like there's nothing that happens, or I'm just saying that that's what people might throw at it or might label it as, because I think it actually does the direct opposite. But I think if you are definitely okay with I don't want to say a slower paced movie, because I think it is paced very well, and obviously it's a shorter movie in general, so it doesn't really suffer from it feeling too long. But I would say it's just more of like a build up. It's adding these other elements little by little, and we're starting to see a progression slowly of the way the characters are acting, or just building up to their final decision making, right? So I would definitely say that you like thrillers, you like these actors and actresses specifically, this is another great movie in their repertoire that if you're a fan, go check out, because I think you'll like it. It's kind of in par with other films that they select, so I think people that follow actors around from movie to movie, this will be one that you'll like if you like them. But also, if you just find, like I mentioned, kind of the focus on these traits that some people have, I think that's probably the biggest part of the movie. So if that's something that you either find that intriguing, or you're just like, sounds boring, then that would be the main deciding factor, I think, and if you should see this movie or not. But my personal score, I'll be giving it a middle ground worth it. I did really enjoy it. It's definitely not in my top picks for these actors and actresses out of movies that they've done, but I think seeing a handful of actors that you definitely won't see them again altogether in another movie because of unfortunate things, but just the culmination of them all coming together, and then the premise being what it is, I think it was a fun ride. So I would recommend it to you guys if you're looking for a different movie, if you just like stuff. So we'll get out of here. It's already probably too long for like a 4-year-old movie now. But let me know what you guys thought, or if you're gonna check it out. We will be back for more movie stuff. I've been trying to watch more movies that I hadn't been putting off, or just seeing more movies in general, so we can have some more movie stuff on the channel. So we will be bringing that into the mix. Gonna bring some movies that aren't trash, and I think that's a little hard to find nowadays if you're looking at new releases, but I guess not many movies are coming out in general, so we might go back a little bit like this one. It's not too old, but it's definitely not new, so hopefully we'll find something that you guys haven't seen, or maybe not even heard of, or we'll be doing new releases as well too. But anyway, guys, that'll conclude this, and I'll see you guys for the next review. But until then, addicts, peace.